Welcome back to BBB Adventures and the Builder Series at Frank's Place. This episode will be a continuation of the project we started to refresh Luna, our 1962 Corvair Greenbrier camper van. We covered the scope and goals of this project in part 1 of this Lunar Refresh series, so if you're interested in what we're attempting to accomplish, you can go back and watch that episode. This episode finds us at Frank's Place on May 13th. If you watched last week's episode, you know that several unfortunate circumstances have caused a change in our priority. So we are no longer tracking a formal Luna Refresh completion date. In this episode, we are getting back to sealing up the oil leaks in Luna's engine. This fantastic animation from the YouTube channel Stever and Juan helps illustrate what we'll be doing. The valve train on a Corvair engine starts with the camshaft, which engages the hydraulic lifters, causing them to push the push rods, which are housed in pushrod tubes. At the other end, at the cylinder head, the push rods engage the rockers, which in turn engage the end of the intake and exhaust valves, causing them to open and close as the engine moves through the 4-stroke cycle. The pushrod tubes seal at the block on one end and the head on the other with the help of O-rings. And over time and heat cycles, they tend to lose their elasticity, resulting in an oil leak path. This episode, we are going to be replacing these O-rings. Well, Saturday. It's a beautiful day. I haven't been in the shop for a few days because we got stuff going on in our family that we'll probably talk about at one point, but today is Saturday and I'm in the shop. Today I'm going to work on the engine. I'm going to work on the engine today, and we're going to replace the O-rings and all of these push rod tubes. I've been cleaning on this gasket surface for a while this morning. I didn't really film that because it's boring, but I'm going to tear into these and replace these. Let me walk you through the basic process. The first thing you do is you take all the rocker arms off, and then you pull the push rods out, keeping track of those. So I've set up this cardboard box where I can stick the push rods in. It's important to keep the push rod end that's touching the rocker and the push rod end that touches the lifter all paired up, because these things have been running for a while and they've created, basically mating surface happy places, and so keeping all the happy places together is important. So you got to be organized when you disassemble it so that when you assemble it, you get everything back the way it should be. So I'm going to take the rockers off, to pull the push rods out, get them stored over here in order, and then I will loosen up the head studs, the lower head studs, which will allow me to take this plate that maybe you can see, this guide plate off, and that guide plate holds the push rods in. Then I can pull the push rods out and replace the seals. So I'm going to probably, I just noticed it's pretty dirty back here, so I'm probably going to clean a little bit more and then, tear into this. First 3 done. This is the plate I'm talking about that guides the push rods and holds the push rod tubes in. These nuts actually are part of the studs that hold the head and compress the cylinder jug against the block. So those are a little scary when I get to pull those out. You can see these are the valves. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to be organized about what I've got going on here. Everything needs to be kept as matches. So I will keep on working. I've got the push rods, rockers, all disassembled. Now it's time to do these head studs. There's two schools of thought. Some people take them all loose, do them all at once. Others do them two at a time. I don't know what to do. You don't want to warp the head. You don't want to put excess stress on the head gasket. Somebody I really trust says they do them all at once. So I'm gonna loosen them all at once. That's the way I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna loosen them a little bit at a time. Got them all loosened. I can't tell at this point if any of the head studs have rotated. I hope not. But let me keep pulling these out. We'll soon know. Okay, that's good news. So far, so good. I had to go find my O-ring or my pushrod tube removal tool I built years ago. I was lucky enough to find it. How you get these pushrod tubes out is you carefully take some channel locks and get them to twist. These are really easy to crush, these tubes. So you just want to gently rotate them back and forth until they breaks the O-ring surface. It just kind of breaks them loose. Then this thing goes in behind the push rod. I'll show you. So it's designed to go in here and push on that surface of the push rod tube and push it out. This one you got to be careful not to hit the temperature sensor. Okay, I got it to twist better. Comes. Push it right out. And then you pull the O-ring off the inside. And you pull this thing right out. O-ring groove, O-ring groove. I'm going to keep these in order as well. I'm going to keep going until I get all the push rod tubes out. You know, I think I'm going to take this exhaust log off. It's going to give me better access, and I want to check the donuts on here anyway. So I'm going to do that next. This little tab bends down, keeps these nuts from spinning. This is the exhaust manifold. This is the exhaust port coming out of the head. And you can see I've got two of the push rods out. And if you look, I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, but if you look at the O-ring, they look pretty good. Got a little bit of a flat spot on them, so, but they are brown in color. I sort of expected them to be black, which would have been the original rubber that Chevrolet used, but these have been updated to the Viton O-rings, so that's good. But anyway, I'm going to take this exhaust log off so I can more easily get to these pushrod tubes, and I can clean up this better. So yeah, that's next. That exhaust donut needs to be replaced. I replaced them not that long ago, but they take a pretty good beating. So hopefully I've got new ones of those. If not, I'll have to get a Clark's order going. Okay, one of the things I've been working on, I didn't really film it, but I took this off. This is an air deflector, and it goes at the bottom of the cylinders. And so the cylinders go here. There's 3 of them, so they go in those. And it helps direct airflow around the jugs, around the cylinders. So it's part of the cooling system. Well, I took this off, and a lot of these fins were clogged up with old grease and goo, and which really impacts the effectiveness of the cooling system since it's air cooled. So I've cleaned all of that up. I've cleaned all the fins. I've cleaned all of this up. This thing was greasy and nasty, and I've cleaned it up, and I'm going to reinstall this as a next step. And then I'm going to get into cleaning all of the areas. I got to keep all of this really clean. And speaking of cleaning, I'll clean the pushrod tubes, and I'm going to begin to reassemble this. These little wire bales are the clips you gotta get in. So I got them in. That's what holds this air deflector on. You can see now how it deflects the air, concentrates it, makes it go around the fins, and it increases the effectiveness of the air cooling the cylinders. So anyway, that's all cleaned up and back together. All right, here's a clean one. So I've cleaned off the outside, I've cleaned off the inside. The inside's pretty clean because there's just fresh oil going through it normally, but anyway, clean that. And then these are the grooves that the O-rings go in, these grooves. So you want to make sure that they're clean and not scratched, and that the surface is smooth and not damaged, so the O-ring will seat and seal properly in that groove. So I'm going to do that. This is still a dirty one, so I'm going to keep cleaning all of these. Yeah. Okay, I've got all the pushrod tubes cleaned. But now I've got to take these O-rings. There's O-rings here that also seal up oil from getting leaking out this way, so it keeps oil inside this part of the head assembly. And so I got to take those out, and I got to carefully clean the groove. I've already taken this one out, so now I got to carefully clean that groove, make sure that's all clean, put new O-rings in. Then I'm going to clean all this off really good. There's a bunch of debris and stuff. I got to clean all these surfaces where the O-rings rest. I got to make sure they're nice and clean. And on the engine, the same thing. I got to make sure some garbage hasn't got into the lifters. So I got to do some cleaning and prepping, and then I think we can start reassembly. Okay, it's time to reassemble it. What I've done is I've coated the surfaces that the O-rings are going to come in contact with a light coating of lubricant with some grease to help with the ease of installation. And so now I'm going to clean these O-ring grooves one more time. This is where cleanliness is really important. So now I'm going to coat some engine oil in the O-ring groove. I'm going to coat this O-ring in the engine oil. I'm going to carefully stretch the O-ring around the tube. Okay, so this goes through here. Now I'm going to put this O-ring on. I'm going to put some, again, motor oil in the groove. Motor oil on the O-ring. Make sure everything's clean. Okay. All the pushrod tubes are reinstalled with new O-rings. They're nice and clean. I've got these O-rings, new O-rings, where the studs are. So now I'm going to put the pushrods back. Okay, on these, this is assembly lube, engine assembly lube. I'm going to put a little bit of this on the ends of this pushrod. Guide plate, push rods, these nut studs. I'm going to do that for the other 3 cylinders, and then we'll start putting the rockers on. So I'll go do that. I'm going to get her done. Okay, I've got all of the backer plates and push rod studs, or nuts for the head studs. All done. It's looking pretty good. So now I'm gonna torque these to 35 foot-pounds, but I'm gonna start with 15. So I'm gonna get them all to 15, and then I'll do 20, 25. Anyway, I'll go up in increments and get them torqued. This is the scary part, because this is where sometimes these studs pull out of this aluminum head. So yeah, this is a little scary. All right, I'm only going to go to 10. $25, $30. Last one, 35 foot-pounds. Larry said to do this twice. Check it twice. And obviously, one to fix the other, so we'll check them again. All right, now that the heads are tightened back up, I'm going to put the rockers back on, and I'm going to put assembly lube on all of the surfaces that are moving surfaces. That way, when the engine fires up, these surfaces will have some lubrication before oil pressure comes up. So, yeah.
again, I'm putting assembly lube on all of the mating surfaces that have moving parts.
I got all the rockers on, and you can see how this one's loose and this one's tighter. So I'm gonna snug these up until they're just, barely take up all this gap, all the slop. And that'll be good for now. Eventually, when I get the other side O-rings replaced, there's a procedure I'll go through later where I rotate the engine around to each cylinder and then do a rough valve adjustment. And then the final valve adjustment is actually done with the engine running with a special valve cover that allows you to get to these. But I won't be able to do that until the engine's back in the van. So I'm going to tighten up those, like I said, to get that slop out of this. And then I'm pretty much done with this side, and I need to do the other side. Need to replace all of the O-rings on the other side. I probably won't film that because that is going to look just like what I did here today, and I probably won't do it today. It's getting a little late. These things always take longer than you think because there's lots of cleaning and other stuff to do, but it's good progress. Yeah, I'll do the other side, and again, probably won't film it for now. I'm gonna call it a day. Thanks for watching. We're home.
Well, that's going to do it for part 8 of the Lunar Refresh. We filmed enough work to produce one more Lunar Refresh episode before all progress came to a halt. So please stay tuned for part 9 next week.